Damn, what's today? December 26th. Yeah, Christmas was yesterday, you know. Living room. We're packed up. Shadi's on her way. We're gonna pack up and we're moving to Maryland. I hope this is the right choice. I feel like it's the good choice. I'm just expecting miracles and blessings, and I'm expecting everything that God has promised us to come to fruition as we move on to the next chapter of our lives. Hey y'all, what's up? All right, y'all. Today is August 19th, 2023, right? It has been a little bit over 8 months since I made that video of me moving from New Jersey to Maryland to move back in with my mother. So this is what happened, all right? We just gonna have like a little story time. Okay, so let's backtrack to 2020, actually when I moved out, guys. I was in this space of just really wanting to find myself, to be my own person, to have the space to kind of like develop into this woman that I was becoming. I think I was like 24 at the time. I was 25. I'm not good at math. Anyway, lived with my mother my whole life. I had got a job, paying a salary. Your girl was making the coins, all right? I was making the coins. Talking about like manifestation, if we're talking about like bringing things to fruition, I literally would wake up and go to sleep with the thought in my mind, I'm moving out of my mother's house. All of my money is going towards moving out of my mother's house. And lo and behold, that's exactly what happened, because God is always going to come through. Period. I'm not even going to get into the story of how I was able to move out, because that's a whole nother video about faith and how God will move mountains for you if you're in alignment. Amen. Ashe. Now, I'm going to tell you guys this. I was set up real good. All right. Like I said, I was working full time. I was on a salary. I was making good coin. I had a nice egg. If you were thinking about moving out, make sure, if you have the ability to, make sure you have a nice egg. And by egg, I mean like a nice savings. So like you want to shoot somewhere between like 30 and 40K. For real. All in all, how I ended up making the decision, or how I ended up moving back in with my mom, was pretty much lack of financial literacy. It is something that people of my community do not speak about enough. It's not taught to us in schools. It's not an option a lot of times. Like a lot of people get on their own and they just have to figure it out. Underestimating the importance of having a budget, overestimating how much I was bringing in as opposed to what was going to go out, things like that, like things that I was never taught and I never actually really seen growing up. For the most part, growing up, my mom just took care of things, like she paid the bills, etc., etc. The financial literacy really harmed me. I said I had a really good egg, but I underestimated how many things would come into play. That egg started to dwindle more and more very quickly when I moved out. See, it's so important. If you're still living at home, do your best to just like read up on financial literacy. Like get yourself really familiar with budgeting. Get yourself familiar with like checks and balances system. Like I know it sounds old school, but like there's apps out there that'll help you do that. Utilize that. I did not utilize that, so that's how I ended up back here. Have your finances in order. Like make sure that you have stable income coming in. Anything like me and you're creative and you're one of the real juicy millennials, we don't like working for nobody, okay? I don't want to stay at a corporate job just to have a corporate job. We also have to make sure that we have a steady stream of income coming in, because that hurt me too. Let's just call it what it is. One thing that I will say though, living on my own, I became very close to God. Like me, God really became like when I moved out on my own, and that was really something that I wanted to experience. Like I wanted to find myself. I wanted to figure out who I was at the end of the day. So for me, like everyone has the idea of success. That was a success for me. Once I got to the point where me and God were like kind of locked in. But the thing about that is I started praying and praying and praying that God would place me on the right path, so that way I can, be the person I've always wanted to be. So y'all, I'm gonna tell you this. Even though my main goal was to move out and like to gain my independence and find out who I was, I totally underestimated how lonely that could be. That is when I learned the power of being careful and being specific about what it is that you pray for. Because baby, I prayed to move out and be on my own, and that's exactly what happened. I moved to another state. I had no family around me, no friends at the time, and nobody around me, baby. It was lonely. And when I tell y'all that mental health was mental health thing, which leads us to our second point of how I got here, my mental health. And like the financial literacy conversation, a lot of people in my community do not take into account how big of a part mental health plays in you being successful and you being the person that you want to be. And I found myself like having a hard time juggling depression and being honest with myself about how I was feeling on a day-to-day basis, which led me to kind of withdraw and go inward, child, which negatively impacted my ability to earn, to make money. So between that and my anxiety, I went through a period of time where I wasn't working, I wasn't socializing. I literally was just like a hermit in my house, dealing with and trying to heal abandonment wound, like of being lonely and everything. And y'all, like I said, no one prepares you for that. No one teaches you that about like mental health and making sure that you're staying on top of it and like asking for help, which was really hard for me around that time. Like I learned all of this in the span of me being on my own for about 2 years. Yeah, my mental health negatively impacted being able to maintain me living on my own. Now, the good part about this is when I was on my own, again, I had my own money. I was free to make my own decisions and do my own things. And a good part about that was I went back to therapy. I had been in and out of therapy for a long time. I've always been vocal about wanting to get help. So I was not a stranger to therapy at all. And when I started going, living on my own, I was really able to I really want to say it was a great healing experience and learning experience for me to be able to heal. Like, it was just like me and God. Like, it was just like, God was like, I'm going to unearth all of this stuff, and I'm also gonna patch you back up in the long run. So in retrospect, I'm really glad that I was able to do that on my own. But like I said, there was a period of time that I was in heavy hermit mode. Like, I was in complete isolation. And when you're in isolation, nothing's moving at all. So that also led me ultimately to being here. Around this time, I was dealing with things with like lack of direction. Like, I had no sense of self. I had so many limiting beliefs about who I was, what I was able to accomplish, if I even deserved what it is that I had at the time. Like, that all kind of impacted me making a move. I was like kind of stuck in a sense in this like cocoon of healing that God had me on, and this all stemmed from me asking God to place me on the right path. So guys, don't get discouraged if you ask God to place you on the right path and things start like going out of control. 9 times out of 10, it's going exactly how it needs to go. So also, if you guys want, I can make a video about that, about me like finding direction and praying and asking God to place me on the right track and like how that essentially looked like. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna move. All in all, me asking God to place me on the right path essentially ended up in things kind of like deconstructing belief that God wanted to build from the ground up. Towards the end of me living on my own, I was in this place kind of like surrender, where it was just like, all right, God, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. I'm just gonna trust you, and I'm gonna move forward with what it is that you want me to do. Around this time, God had told me that I should start using my voice more, like presenting myself on social media, which is how I ended up here on this YouTube channel. So y'all, make sure you subscribe and support your girl, because I'm stepping out on faith right now, okay? But yeah, so God was kind of leading me to do that, and I was just like resisting for so long that towards the end, when I was living on my own and God was like, all right, it's time for you to make a move, I was just like, all right. Now, I will say that the offer was always on the table. I'm like really blessed to have a mother that had open arms and was just like, listen, if you need to come back home, come back home. People come back home all the time. The offer is there. I was the one that was holding on to this, again, self-limiting belief that if I go backwards, then like I'm going to continue to go backwards. Like, I'm just a failure after that. Instead of seeing the step backwards as a way to move forward, like to catapult myself. If you're presented with the opportunity to move back home, don't think that it's the end of the world. Seriously, it could literally be the step in the right direction that you need. It can be the boost that you need. It can help you achieve some goals that you probably have been praying and asking God to do anyway. As I was letting go of my apartment, I felt I was met with feelings of not being worthy, self-worth issues, feeling like a failure and things like that. And that just comes with the territory, of course. Like the title of the video, like a millennial struggle that we deal with. Like, a lot of the generations that came before us, by the time they were our age, they were moved out, they had homes, they had kids, married, jobs, job security, and like, unfortunately, we just don't have that right now. So just know that you're not alone in this struggle. Know that there's other people that deal with what it is that you're going through. Hopefully me being vulnerable allows you to accept where it is that you're at, because trust me, babe, it's not that bad. Like, and I know people say that all the time, and especially if you've never moved out with of your parents' house, I totally understand, like, you don't want to hear it, but I'm telling you now, baby, it's not that bad. Okay, you're gonna get out on your own, and you're gonna be like, hold up, let me just, if I just had an opportunity, just give me a minute. It kind of comes at you fast. So really take each day for what it's worth, and really like set yourself up so that way you don't have to look back and be like, dag, maybe I should have waited, or dag, was this really worth it? Because been there. All right, guys, so real quick, I'm just gonna do some cons of moving back in with my parents. We're gonna start with the bad so that way we can end on the good. Okay, the obvious thing that I dealt with was my loss of freedom. I prayed to have this freedom and have this independence so much that when I was met with having to let it go, it was like grieving. Like, I low-key went through a grieving process when I had to move back in with my parents. Like, I just could not believe that I had to go back. Like, it, like your routine that you had living on your own, that's no more. You gotta go back to living in by someone else's rules. You're not gonna have as much space, you're not gonna have as much freedom. It was one of those ones, and that by far has been the biggest con for my loss of space, my loss of freedom. It is so hard to go from a beautiful one bedroom with a view to a bedroom in somebody else's crib, okay? But we're thankful, and I love my mom for allowing me to come back home. We'll forever be thankful. Some people do not even have the choice or the opportunity, so I consider myself blessed in that area, okay? The second con, we spoke about this before, like feeling like a failure. Like, I literally felt like, oh my God, I'm 27 years old. I have to move back in with my parents. Boo, you're a failure. Like, I went through it. Very much self-loathing. It was dramatic. But by far not the biggest con, because that one's all in your head. That one has to do with how you feel about yourself. So don't stay too long on that one, because it's all in your head, I promise. Third and final one, because we're gonna keep it cute for the sake of the video, I don't want to be too long. Although you may not have to pay, like, when you live on your own, you have to pay rent. Like, that is the cost of having what it is that you want. You're gonna pay rent, you're gonna pay bills, you're gonna have to, put food in your house, you're gonna have to furnish your house. That's how you pay, you feel me? You pay with that. But when you move back in with your parents, you pay in your mental health. You may not be paying those as many bills as before. You may not be having to shell out rent every month if you're lucky, but you're going to pay in your mental health, love, okay? And that was the biggest con, because no matter what, the parents are adults, they're in a different phase of their life, you're in a different phase. Everyone is just like, trying to cohabitate with each other. You have your own points of views, I'm sure they do too. They probably will still see you as their child, or still see you, and you just want to be your own person. It's gonna be a clash, love. Like, it really just might be a clash. However, if you can just like pay that small price, I promise you, it'll push you. It'll really push you, okay? So if you're still with me at this point in the video, we're gonna talk about the pro. My first pro, and this is the biggest one for me, I've been saving way more money. When I first got out here, I was able to start working remotely, and that was amazing. Like, it's really not a lot to do out here. It's really not too many places to go. So that alone allowed me to save money. And when you're saving money, you can stack your bread, stack your cheese, and it'll be easier for you to get out in the long run. Like, there's almost no distractions. A lot of times when you live on your own, like, you're already here. So it's like you're not really thinking about budgeting. Like I said, you move back in, you're very conscious of how much you're spending, of how much you can save, because ultimately at the end of the day, we all just want to move out. So you get to save money. You're not shelling out money on rent, on bills, like, all of the big purchases. So even if you do have to spend a little bit of money, it's nowhere near how much you spend when you're living on your own. So the second pro, and you can essentially start over. Like, sometimes going backwards is allowing you to just have a fresh slate, like to be able to build yourself back from the ground up. Like, it's really not as bad as it seems. And I know I've been saying that a lot, but I really believe it, because once you get out of your head and your ego about what living with your parents means, like socially, and like, what society thinks, it's really a chance for you to be strategic about where it is that you want to go in your life without the pressure of having to survive on your own. I'm telling you, you will appreciate it in the long run. Having the room and the comfort of being able to pivot in your life really allows you to kind of manifest that idea of success. You're more in the flow, you know, and when you're flowing with things, things kind of come into manifestation or fruition a lot quicker. So yes, take your opportunity to start over, take it. And the last pro, meaning community, like having people around you, having a support system. Again, and this is just if you're lucky. Some people don't have parents who are, you know, dope enough to give them the sense of community or whatever. But if you really like don't have that horrible relationship with your parents, you guys can like cohabitate together, at least be cordial. You at least have that community. I mean, like shared responsibility. You might not want to cook one night. You got people that could cook. Like, you know, just spending time with others. We are communal creatures. Like, humans need community. We need interaction. So don't underestimate that. Having community around, having support, really, it aided in my mental health. It really helped my depression and my anxiety. I still have my days, but they give me the space to do that. So again, shout out to them. All right, y'all. So that is the end of the video. I hope it wasn't too long, but thank you for joining me in this video. I really appreciate you guys for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.